This meeting to order. Good afternoon, everybody. If they could, members, grab your seats, especially tall people from Fairfax County. Okay. Call the meeting to order. Clerk, can you open the roll? Thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome to our initial meeting of the Agricultural, Conservation, and Natural Resources Committee. I will be the new chairman. I'm sitting next to the past chairman and glad to have his advice as we move along. But we do have some new committee members. I think the easiest way to begin is probably for each person to introduce themselves and tell us where you're from and which Senate district you represent. So Senator Pillion, why don't you start us off?
Todd Pillion, 40th Senate District, which is half of Southwest Virginia that Ben Chafin does not represent.
Okay.
Frank Ruff, 15th Senate District, which covers much of Southside.
Emmett Hanger, the 24th Senatorial District. I live in Augusta County, also represent Rockingham, along with Senator Obenchain up there, Stanton, Waynesboro, and then Madison, Culpeper, and Greene on the east side of the mountain.
Richard Stewart, I represent the 28th Senate District, which is parts of Westmoreland, King George, Stafford, Spotsylvania, and Prince William.
I'm Senator Dave Marsden from the 37th District, which is all in Fairfax County, but I'm trending very agricultural. I'm up to 12 people growing tomatoes in their backyard.
Linwood Lewis, I have the 6th Senate District, which is the 2 counties on Virginia's eastern shore, half the city of Norfolk, 1 precinct in Virginia Beach, Matthews County on the Middle Peninsula.
Monty Mason, 1st Senate District on the Virginia Peninsula.
Jennifer McClellan, 9th Senate District, which you're sitting in. Parts of the city of Richmond, eastern Henrico County, all of Charles City County, the town of Ashland, and the slight piece of Hanover.
Ghazala Hashmi, 10th Senate District, representing all of Powhatan County and Chesterfield County, part of Chesterfield County and city of Richmond.
Good afternoon, folks. Joe Morrissey. I represent parts of Richmond, a large swath of Chesterfield County, all of Hopewell, all of the city of Petersburg, portion of Dinwiddie, and Prince George County.
Last but not least, good afternoon. I'm Senator Barbara Favola, and I represent District 31, which is a large part of Arlington, but I also go up the Potomac River, so I have parts of McLean and all of Great Falls and 6 precincts in Loudoun County. So I cross 3 jurisdictions, Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun.
And I'm Chap Peterson. I represent the 34th Senate District, which is Fairfax City, Central and Western Fairfax County. And I'm a little bit unusual in that my great-great-grandfather also represented this district in the 1890s when it really was a rural district. So it's changed a bit, but bottom line is we're all here hopefully to do good work. So let me do this. Before we get to the bills themselves, I also want to announce 3 subcommittees that this committee is going to have, really representing 3 separate issues from which we had multiple bills and require a little bit more in-depth discussion and research probably than we could do in an ordinary committee hearing. The first one will be the Menhaden Subcommittee. Monty Mason, Senator Mason will be the chair. Senator Lewis, Senator Stewart, and Senator McClellan will be the other members. The Industrial Hemp Subcommittee, Senator Morrissey will be the chair, and Senator Ruff and Senator Suderline will be the other members. And the Companion Animals Subcommittee, Senator Marsden will be the chair, Senator Favola and Senator Pillion will be the other members. And having said that, let's get to the bills, and I think is Senator Chafin here? If you could come forward, sir.
First.
Well, what's your low number bill?
Okay, so I've got Senate Bill 262 and I've got Senate Bill 774. I also have Senate Bill 478. That's to make the Clinch River State Park a scenic river, and I'm going to ask that you allow that to go by for the day. We have a couple of localities. I've been contacted by someone from Mr. Chrisman's office, and they would like to see it go by for the day.
So what was the number on that again, Senator?
That's 478.
Okay, so without objection, Senate Bill 478 will go by for the day.
Okay. So I also have Senate Bill 262. That is the elk hunting bill.
Why don't you go ahead with that?
Okay. So this bill seeks to establish a special license to hunt elk. It also authorizes the Board of Game and Inland Fisheries of Game and Inland Fisheries to create a special license for hunting elk in the elk management zone. This license would be required in addition to a general hunting license. Currently, elk can be taken in those counties with a deer tag. If the elk go outside the management zone, they can currently be taken with a deer tag. This seeks to make this to be the situation where a special elk tag will be required. They will establish hunting in the management zone. You'll still be able to take them with a deer tag if they go outside the management zone. It's estimated there's about 250 elk in Southwest Virginia. These animals, as you know, were part of the history of the Southeast and Northeast and the Commonwealth of Virginia. But due to extensive hunting pressure, they were hunted to extinction back in the 1900s, in the mid-1900s. And so that's what I can say about it. Everybody is on the same page in terms of the group. There was a group that got together in March of 2019. The Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries endorsed a 10-year elk management plan, and that plan was the culmination of a work group of all the interested stakeholders, and I believe everyone is on the same page now.
Okay. Any questions from the panel? All right, all in support of Senate Bill 262? Hold on. Do we have anyone that wants, all in support of 262?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Favola.
sorry, a quick question. I guess this license, there's no additional fee or no additional extension, so is it an annual license and no additional fee?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Senator Favola, I would say that I believe there is an additional fee for the license that will help support the management of the elk population and the reintroduction of this elk program.
So that was an increase. Okay, I
Yes.
just wanted clarification. Thank
Senator
you, Mr.
Morrissey.
Chairman.
Good afternoon, Senator. You mentioned that at one point, the elk population got close to extinction, right? When was that, and what is the number of elk that you want to get to before you have to start culling the population again?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Morrissey, I would say that the elk were extinguished somewhere around the turn of 1900. There was an earlier reintroduction of elk program that occurred, I believe, in the 1950s. Don't hold me to the exact date, but it was in the 1950s. It didn't work out. It wasn't supported, and the elk were once again hunted to extinction. I think that the effort here is to bring the elk herd somewhere to a number of less than 1,000. But there is someone here from the department that could probably address that better than me. I know that just across the state line in Kentucky is the largest herd in the eastern United States, and that herd is somewhere around 11,000 head. So I think that because we have a much smaller land mass to work with, the 3 counties that are part of this elk management area, I think it's going to be somewhere around 1,000 is what I'm thinking.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
Yeah,
follow-up
go
question
ahead, Senator Morrissey.
of the expert?
And if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ryan Brown. I look forward to working with the committee. I'm the new executive director of the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, this body willing, of course, through the confirmation process. But the senator did an excellent job of addressing the questions and very close on the time frames. The last native elk was extirpated from the Commonwealth in the 1860s range. As he mentioned, it was actually the 1930s that there was a small effort to reintroduce them into different parts of the Commonwealth of Virginia, but not in numbers substantial enough to take off. Right now, we introduced 75 elk a number of years ago to the Buchanan, Dickinson, and Wise area, which is known as the elk management zone where this bill would apply. The goal is to get to around 400 animals before any type of hunt is authorized, which is still a couple years off at this point. And the herd in Virginia is envisioned to remain small, although Kentucky does have a herd now that, depending on who you ask, ranges in the 10 to 15,000 animal range.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of very quick questions.
Senator Morrissey.
Did I hear Senator Chafin say that the population is at 215 now, or did it?
Yeah, 250. About 160 of those roughly reside within the elk management zone. Now we get some movement from other states.
Short questions.
Go ahead.
It's at 250 now, and did I hear you say that you want to get to a little shy of 1,000 before you start hunting them again?
No, it's going to be 400 to 500 before there's very limited hunting. And to be clear, it'll be a very small hunt done through a lottery system is what this bill sets up.
Okay. And why are we issuing, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Final question. Why would we be giving licenses now if you're still 2 years away from getting to that number of 500 before you start culling the population to a smaller number?
Good question. This bill doesn't actually establish the license or direct that it be issued. It gives our Board of Game and Inland Fisheries the regulatory authority to develop the license, which, if you're familiar with the regulatory process, takes a couple of years to do. So this will put us ready for when the time comes.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
All right, I have a question myself. The senator talked about taking it on a deer tag, so you could, in other words, hunt an elk on a deer tag if you're outside of those 3 counties. Can you explain what that distinction means?
Yeah, before the reintroduction effort into the elk management zone took place, we were having elk move into Virginia from Kentucky largely, who has a more major reintroduction effort. And at that point in time, there wasn't a desire to have them establish a population in Virginia, and so they were allowed to be hunted on a deer license because they are deer cervidae as a species. When the reintroduction, when it was decided that Southwest Virginia or a portion thereof wanted to take advantage of the economic benefits that Kentucky was seeing as a result of the reintroduction effort taking place there, there was a recognition that agricultural interests outside of that area still would have concerns about elk damage. And so the deal that was struck, so to speak, was we'll establish elk in largely the coal fields region on reclaimed coal mining lands in this 3-county area, but outside of that area, the population goal is really 0, not to have an elk population outside of that area, and that's the reason for maintaining the status quo.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the panel? Okay, anyone else have anything to say in favor of this bill or opposed to it? All right. We've had a motion and a second to report Senate Bill 262 and refer it to Finance. Thank you. Roll is open. And go ahead. Bill is reported 14.
Yea 14,
Yep.
nay 0.
There you go. All right, bill is reported 14-0. All righty. Next up.
Next bill I have is Senate Bill 774. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill deals with big game hunting as well, and it prohibits offering for sale, selling, offering to purchase, purchasing, or guaranteeing a kill, or charging a fee for killing a deer, bear, or wild turkey. So it's the big game. The smaller game is exempted. Small game and migratory birds are exempted. The bill doesn't present a landowner from leasing land for hunting, except that a lease of land for hunting deer, bear, or wild turkey would not be for less than 3 days if there is a lease. Violation of this is a Class 1 misdemeanor, and dependent upon a number of violations, multiple violations, it could become a Class 6 felony.
Okay. All righty. Any questions? Anyone here to speak in support of Senate Bill 774?
Mr. Chair,
Just one question.
Yes, Senator Suderline.
At what point is it envisioned that it become a felony?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Senator Suderline, I believe that it is in the event that aggregate sales, if someone is conducting a business and selling big game animals, if the aggregate sales or purchases or any combination of them totals 500 or more during a 90-day period, it could become a Class 6 felony.
Oh, so these folks will be pretty flagrantly disregarding the law at that point.
I believe that is the intent of the bill, yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Chafin, would this interfere in any way with somebody who was offering themselves as a hunting guide to take you out, as long as he didn't guarantee a kill or was selling anything, but just offered his services for a fee to go out and guide you in deer hunting, for instance?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden, I do not believe that it would. I do not believe it gets sideways with that. I think that what this bill deals with is guarantees. So guarantees of results.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So as long as they don't get into any kind of promise of that, then they take their chances just like anybody else, but the person would have someone with local knowledge as to where, a game animal might be and be able to guide them in their hunting because they may be inexperienced or unfamiliar with the area. That's still okay.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden, I think that is absolutely right.
Thank you.
Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Chafin.
I don't.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I had a question. And not to be extreme, but I just look at this for the way people who own land to hunt actually operate. What if I've got a 16-year-old kid and he offers to cut grass or bush hog for me or clean up a pile of wood that fell down on the road, and in exchange I say, you're welcome to deer hunt, and I guarantee you'll kill a deer. Have I broken the law?
Depends on how good your lawyer is. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Senator Stewart, I would say that you should not put that guarantee in writing.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
And I threw that in as an extra, but as I read the bill, is bartering part of a sale? So if he cleans up a pile of wood or cuts up a tree that fell over my driveway, and I exchange, I let him deer hunt, have I now broken the law? I just want to make sure what I'm voting on.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Stewart, I do not believe that that asking someone or having someone to perform some services on your farm.
There's an exchange.
Well, let me follow up this question. If you go hunting and you're sitting in a blind, and let's say the bag limit is 2, whatever you're hunting, and the birds don't come, and the guide, or takes you away, or the landowner, and he said, I feel badly about that, I'll give you your money back, or you can come back another day. Would that be a violation of this code section?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see how that would be a violation of this code section either.
Okay. Mr. Chairman? Yes, Senator Marsden.
I think what this bill does is if there is any bartering or any fee or whatever, it's just offering somebody the opportunity. What you're not dealing with is any specific animal or the right to kill that animal or anything else. You're just giving them access to hunting, and I think that's it. I think you could stretch this bill in a dozen different directions, but I think it's fairly clear that as long as it's just access that you're or guiding or whatever that you're fine.
Yes, Senator Stewart.
I assume what you're trying to get at is I know there are wildlife preserves and others that basically what they do is they put a price on a buck, and if it's a 4 point, it's one price. If it's 8 points, or 12 or whatever. You're trying to avoid that, I assume. That's what we're after, right?
Go ahead.
I just don't want to catch.
Senator
I don't want
Stewart.
to catch
Yes.
honest people up in this who look, because country people do favors for each other, and I don't want that to be sort of a barter or an exchange where you've broken the law. If you're comfortable, I'm comfortable, but I
Mr.
just want to
Chairman,
make sure.
Go ahead.
Senator Stewart, perhaps I could have Mr. Belcher speak to that issue. But before I do that, I would like to ask the committee to consider a line amendment,
Okay.
beginning on line 86 and continuing to the end of that sentence on line 87, beginning with the word "except" and ending with the words 3 days. I would like the committee to consider striking that language.
Okay, so let me just repeat this. From the word "except" on line 86 to 3 days on line 87, you want to have that stricken?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. There's
Okay.
been some confusion with regard to people as to land rights and property rights and their ability to lease for 1 day or 2 days
Okay.
or however many days.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor of striking the language as previously articulated, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, the language is stricken. All right, do we have any witnesses? Kirby, I see you standing there.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for hearing me. We very much support this bill. It sends a message, an important message, that the wildlife resources of Virginia belong to all Virginians and are not for sale. That's the intent of it. There's a trend sweeping across the southern states that is counter to that, where wildlife is being bought and sold daily, trophy animals, et cetera, to hang on somebody's wall. That's not what the best traditions of Virginia sportsmen are all about, sportsmen and women. So I do thank you and ask for your support.
Okay. Any further questions or comments from the panel? Any other witnesses? All right, we have a motion and a second to report the bill. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay. Clerk, close the roll.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
All right, the bill is reported 14-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, I next have Senator Boysko out there. There she is, Senator Boysko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've brought some pictures. I don't know if you all want to take a
You
look
can
at them.
distribute, sure. One of the pages perhaps can distribute.
Mr. Chairman, to start with, I have an amendment in the nature of the substitute for
Okay.
SB 648.
Do we have the sub up here? All right, Senator Stewart moves a substitute. I second. Go ahead.
Great. So SB,
Hold on 1 second, Senator, while we get in front of
yes,
us.
sir.
Okay, everyone, this is Senate Bill 648. A substitute has been distributed. Almost. Okay. Senator, proceed.
Certainly. SB 648 originally was too broad. The Department of Conservation Recreation asked that I strike a portion of it covering resource management plans, so that's the change from the original bill. 648, SB 648 would allow the use of flash grazing by goats in short periods of time on land adjacent to a waterway for vegetation management. I think we can all agree that herbicides are bad for the environment. This is a creative and non-dangerous way to allow our localities to get rid of the weeds and give the kids in the neighborhood something to look at as well. It's called flash grazing. It's using goats for a limited way in a short period of time. They are fenced in. And they're working in order to help the town of Leesburg meet its MS4 permit. I have people here from the mayor, Kelly Burke is here of Leesburg. I have other people from the Public Works, and I also have the support of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Peggy Sander is here as well.
Okay. All right, Senator, why don't we do this? Mayor Burke, are you here? I thought I saw you. There you are. Come forward. Mayor Burke, tell us about how the goat saved Leesburg.
Oh, they did indeed. Let me tell
Okay.
you. Let me share it with you. Thank you for letting me speak today. And the story is that this section of our creek is, at some point, someone thought it would be a great idea to put riffraff on there, which is those big rocks. And it's not a natural stream. It's a stream we had to move. So we are required to keep it clear to prevent it from flooding. And in the process of trying to keep it clear with the riffraff there, the big boulders, we couldn't, we had an issue with people out there with weed whackers breaking their ankles and causing all sorts of problems. So we ended up having to go to herbicides. And we had a group of children come to us last year, elementary school kids. And they asked us, they said that after the spraying in their neighborhoods, and they're all near townhouse, they're all there, they documented what were the results, and they counted how many dead fish were left over, how many birds did they find, how many turtles did they find. And they were so upset with it that they came to the town council and they asked us to stop using the herbicides. But we don't have any other choice. And they suggested that could we consider using goats? And so we did. We found, we bid it out, and we had a farm from Maryland, farmer come with 40 goats, and in 2 weeks, they cleared the section of the stream. And I saw that you saw some of the pictures that we have. It really is goat territory for them to be able to walk there and take care of it. They, after, that was in the spring, and then in the fall, we had them come back for 1 more week to redo it. It took them just a week. So
Okay.
it was a total of about 3.5 weeks that we had them. They were fenced in, and we actually had school buses come and do field trips to come see the goats. And it was very popular within the community. And the kids desperately wanted to come today, but they couldn't get out of school. And they asked me to please tell you that it really is important to them, and they really would like to continue to use the goats. And we understand the whole idea of the farm animals staying out of the streams and all of that, and we support that. We understand that. But this is just flash grazing. This is a 2 to 3 week period. It alleviates the use of those horrible chemicals, and we have the kids, the people that are impacted by this, so passionate about it that they came to us and asked us to make a change. And so we would really appreciate the support.
Okay, I'm going to have some questions myself, but Senator Morrison, looked like you had a question.
Is Peggy here from the?
Chesapeake Bay? Oh, that was bad timing.
I'll reserve, I'll wait.
Let me ask you this, and Senator, you may know the answer. What is it that we're changing? If you could already have the goats grazed, then why do we need to change the law?
It's just saying that they have the right to do it. So if you look, and I don't have the amendment in front of me, but 62.1-44.5.
Yeah.
Just says nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit a locality from procuring and utilizing goats for the temporary grazing of stream buffer. So it's just enabling it.
Okay, now my next question
Very
is,
simple.
not today, but at a later time, we're going to take up the issue of cattle grazing in streams.
That would be different.
That
And we
is-
know that they have a different size of.
And
Okay.
they're there for long periods of time. It's not a short period of time.
Okay.
They like to be in the streams. Goats don't like streams. They actually don't like to be in the water.
Okay, well, I was going to say, what prevents them from creating waste in the stream, just like a cattle?
Well, they do have, they obviously do produce waste.
Right.
But we've tested the water, and our utility director can share with you the results of the level of the water. We've tested
Okay.
before and after, if you would like to hear those.
All right, I think Senator Favola had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit a locality. Wouldn't a locality adopt an ordinance? Or how would you do this? Because I would think you may want, we may want you to adopt an ordinance so it's clear about, the duration and if there is any necessary cleanup of the water afterwards and all that, so you can address some of those issues.
I see no problem. I mean, I'm sure that if this were to go forward, that yes, we would follow it up with an ordinance.
Would you be adverse to adding language that says to prohibit a locality from adopting an ordinance to procure and utilize?
I didn't hear the last part.
It would be the rest of your sentence, to procure and utilize goats for the temporary, from adopting an ordinance.
From adopting an ordinance.
I just think when we add the language adopting an ordinance, Mr. Chairman, some thought will have to go into how it's used, how often, what the impact might be. I'm not telling you how to do it. This is permissive.
Okay. Why don't we do this? I think I saw Peggy walk in. Peggy, we had some asks, and I don't see David Paler here, but, maybe DEQ can chime in with environmental aspects. I saw you sort of sinking down back there, David, but come forward.
I'd much rather David Paler
Okay,
go first,
all right.
but I will say, Mr. Chairman, we have had and appreciate having had a conversation with Senator Boysko.
Right.
One thing that we like very much about the substitute is that it does not, as the original bill did, interfere with the Resource Management Plan program, and that is the portion of the bill that we support. So I appreciate the opportunity to
Okay.
clarify that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Marcy, you had a question?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're on.
The picture here, we're trying to get riparian boundaries onto streams all over the Commonwealth as a way of absorbing nutrients and all kinds of things. And this appears to be a stream screaming for a riparian boundary to keep nutrients and other bad things that come from urban areas and what have you out of the streams. And I'm just wondering, is it it's kind of a contradiction to now be taking those weeds, which would turn into small bushes and trees and what have you, and absorb those nutrients, cut down on sediment getting into the creek, and now we're just getting rid of all of those things that do good for our streams. And I guess I need to have an understanding of why we would want to do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Marston, first allow me to say I appreciate the comments that you made in support of the importance of riparian buffers that are maintained. That's a very important part of the Bay Restoration Program. It's important for stream health. It's certainly an important part of our legislative priorities this year. One of the things that I think many in this room know is that we are focusing our work this session on cattle exclusion, partly because of the very significant burden that cattle can have when allowed into streams. I understand from my scientists that goats are a little bit of a different issue, both in terms of quantity and in terms of impact, but I will say I'm not weighing in on the issue of whether it is a good thing or a bad thing to have goats in the manner described in this bill. My support, as I indicated earlier, was for the substitute to the extent it does not any longer impact the Resource Management Plan program.
Okay.
May I have my staff person explain to you why we don't have the riparian buffers there?
All right, why don't we do that? Fine, just briefly.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the areas that we are utilizing the goats is an area that is a man-made channel, and because it is a 100-year floodplain area, it was not designed to accommodate a riparian buffer at the time that it was designed. And by our FEMA letter for that floodplain, we were required to keep it clear of all vegetation. And we have 2 locations in town that is the case, and this is one of them.
Thank you.
Okay, that's helpful. All right, Senator Favola.
If the patron agrees, I would like to add to, after prohibit a locality from adopting an ordinance to procure and utilize, it would be line 40, and then I think you repeat that as well.
Correct. It is.
In line 71.
And then at the very end of the last,
Line
the
71.
last 2
you wanna speak to this
sentences
amendment?
also. Yeah, I'd be happy to accommodate that.
All right, well, why don't we take up that amendment? So I have, nothing shall be construed to prohibit a locality from adopting an ordinance to procure and utilize goats. Do I have a second? We have a question from Senator Stewart on the amendment.
Just before we adopt the amendment, Dave, is there, as I read this, and maybe I should ask Dave Paler, but I don't see anything in this section that prohibits a goat from grazing in there to start with.
I wondered about that, too.
Does anybody else?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, this section is prohibiting discharges into state waters and wetlands. That's on lines 17 and 19.
Right.
So that's the general gist of that section, and this is
You think that
kind of
includes a
create.
goat?
I think animal waste is discharge.
I would give some unpaid legal advice. It might include animal waste. I don't know.
How do you monitor the goat's discharge?
All right, well, hold on, guys. Let's get this amendment voted up or down. Okay, we've had an amendment which has been seconded. I believe I've already reported it, but basically it's requiring the locality to adopt an ordinance in order to fit into this exemption. I have Martha, would you like to speak? Yes, on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I would urge the committee to vote against this amendment. Our concern with adopting that type of amendment is you're changing kind of the statutory provisions of state normally governs these types of conservation practices. I don't believe they're normally governed through local ordinance. I think it's very different when you say they're not prohibited from doing it as opposed to them adopting it. So you're now giving local governments that authority over those types of conservation practices. So we would urge you to vote against that amendment.
Okay, so you're opposed to the amendment. I'm not asking your position on the underlying bill, but
Correct.
opposed to the amendment.
Correct.
Okay, Barbara, you still want to go forward? Or?
Well, it was not my intent. My intent was sort of to help the conservation effort, but does anybody have any other strong opinion? Would you prefer that I withdraw?
Why don't you withdraw the amendment
I will
for now?
withdraw the amendment.
Okay, all right.
All righty.
So, Mr.
All
Chairman,
right,
I
do we
have a
have,
question.
Senator Obenchain has a
I
question.
just had a question. Your, I guess, city person back there dealing with environmental issues said that this was one of two properties in the town of Leesburg that prohibits vegetation, I guess, adjacent to the waterway. I mean, this is a statewide bill, and this would apply to any locality across Virginia without regard to whether vegetation is prohibited adjacent to the waterway. So do you have other waterways, even in Loudon or in Leesburg, that do permit riparian buffers that this would cover?
Yes,
Okay,
we
thank you.
do have other streams that we do allow the riparian buffer to grow, yes.
And this would allow grazing there as well? It would allow it?
It would, as I read it.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
is there any way that we could limit it so that that concern could be met?
Limited to federal, notwithstanding federal regs.
Okay. Do you have an amendment to offer, Senator Obenchain, or maybe not? Okay, why don't we do this? Well, is there any other witnesses that are here to testify either we've had in favor? Anyone else in favor? How about opposed?
To the amendment or to the bill?
The amendment's been withdrawn. Oh, hold on one second, Joe. Go ahead, Martha. And by the way, I should have said this at the outset. When you speak, please introduce your name and who you
I
represent.
apologize.
No worries.
Martha Moore with Virginia Farm Bureau. We actually supported the bill as originally written. Flash grazing for livestock, exactly the problems that they are discussing, that they are having in Leesburg, is what our farmers have been advocating for quite a number of years. I know that there are concerns with regards to reporting and that, but the part of the inhibiting factors for stream buffers is how do you take care of that property, and to allow the livestock, whether it's goats or cows, to temporarily go in there to graze that, we believe should be allowed, and that's why we were in favor of the original bill as proposed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kyle Shreve, Virginia Agribusiness Council. I just want to associate myself with the remarks made by Ms. Moore, and we support the underlying bill. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Russ Baxter with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. We had talked with Senator Boysko yesterday about the provisions that related to the Resource Management Program, which our agency and the Soil and Water Conservation Board oversee. And she removed that in the substitute that was adopted by the committee today. And we thank her for that. We thought it really did throw a wrench into a program that benefits farmers. If they have an RMP, they are going to be immune from any new state regulations regarding agricultural operations. The RMP regulations require that they have a buffer and that buffer is maintained. And so therefore, that was the concern that we brought to the senator, and it was her decision to remove that provision from the bill. Thank you.
So you all are neutral, or?
I don't think I'm allowed to say anything other than we have no position on the bill.
That would be neutral. Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Marsden.
Would it be, I'm not offering an amendment yet, but to finish this off with, to comply with federal floodplain requirements, that really would take it out of the agricultural world, I would assume, and no, it wouldn't? Same issue? Floodplain.
Okay, all right. Yes, Senator. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name's A.J. Erskine. I'm in the oyster industry, and what flows down towards us where we're growing shellfish, we're actually classified by approved and closed growing areas by fecal coliform contamination. So we are concerned about any deposition or waste that's in there that would actually get into these streams, eventually come down on us, impact us. I met with the interested parties, and I think if we can maybe define what flash grazing is or give it a time period, a duration that these goats might be in there, I'm not opposed to the bill, but if there's a time period, I was told 2 weeks, they utilize these goats 2 weeks for maybe 2 times in the year, I'd feel more comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let me do this. I'm sort of getting, I understand the farming community, or the Farm Bureau is generally in favor of this concept. Environmental community, I'm not quite sure where you all are on this right now. It would be helpful if someone would be non-neutral, to be honest. I mean, we're not the experts up here, so.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I will say I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it again, to clarify. I stand by my former comments that we are grateful to Senator Boysko for making this, for the changes that she made. If we were to ask, if you were to ask, because I think you're asking, do we think it's a good bill for the waterways of the Commonwealth? In general, we don't think flash grazing is good for the waterways of the Commonwealth. And so that is certainly our position with respect to water quality. So thank you.
Okay, all right.
So it's better to use herbicide?
I'll entertain any further questions or comments from the committee. I mean, we can pass this by, but to be honest, passing this by a week isn't going to make it any more clear, in my opinion. And, well, I've had some concerns about allowing animals near a waterway that we know flows downstream. Okay, that's just me. Now, I'm one person. But having said that, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Barbara. Senator Favola.
I move that we pass this bill by just for the day and take it up next week, and maybe temporary grazing can be worked on and some other, this could be a good bill, but it could also be a dangerous bill. Frankly, maybe we should narrow it a little bit more when we're talking about waterways. Temporary grazing should probably be defined. Those would be some of my comments.
All right, do we have a second for Barbara's motion? Second. Okay, all in favor of passing this by for a week, vote aye. All opposed, no. All right, I'm going to pass it by for a week. Let me just say right now, we're not going to have witnesses again. Okay. I think we understand where people are, and Senator Boysko, you're going to have to come up with some agreed language to deal with the skeptics.
I'll do my best. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Okay, next, I don't see Senator Locke, so Senator Kiggins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am here to introduce Senate Bill 318, which is known as the balloon bill. It will reduce the number of balloons intentionally released in a 1-hour period. Currently, that number is 49, and my bill reduces that number to 1. In the state of Virginia, it's currently legal to release up to 49 balloons of any type within a 1-hour period. In a sense, it's legal to litter. This is especially problematic since we have a lot of coastal areas in our state, and it affects our marine wildlife and our beaches. During a 51 statewide marine debris research project, balloons were the most common item recorded on 2 of the 4 Virginia beaches studied. And during one-day surveys on Virginia's remote uninhabited barrier islands from June 2013 to November 2017, balloons were among the top 3 forms of litter observed. During some of these surveys, we recorded more than 150 balloon and balloon parts per mile on the beach. And you can see by the chart that we've passed out when they monitored this marine debris in Virginia's coastal zones that balloons, mylar, and latex were the second most popular item that they found on the beaches, only second to bottle and container caps. So balloons injure and kill wildlife. More than 30 animal species are known to be impacted by balloons. They're ingested by endangered sea turtles and marine mammals. And these are the only the ones that we can see. There's many that go unreported and unseen. In addition, I want to speak to the aviation impact. Just as a former Navy helicopter pilot who flew around the Hampton Roads area for years, not only did we see sea turtles in distress wrapped in fishing lines possibly from balloons, but also the catastrophic consequences that would come from ingestion into F-18 or other jet intakes, in addition to getting wrapped up in our rotor blades, is not something that we want. And with the amount of naval aircraft that fly around the state of Virginia, and especially the Hampton Roads area, it's something to be cognizant of. So in summary, we believe that Virginia's current law regarding balloon releases is outdated and needs to be changed to prevent further environmental impacts and provide penalties for balloon littering violations. Virginia was one of the first states to introduce legislation prohibiting mass balloon releases in 1991. And we now have the documentation and knowledge to know that any balloon releases pose potentially significant impacts to coastal habitats and dangers to wildlife. Virginia can once again be a leader on this important issue, and we thank you for your consideration of this reasonable bill whose time has come. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Senator Obenshain.
You know, this bill conjures up images of a long-lost but well-beloved colleague named Senator McWaters. We love Senator McWaters. We love most of his bills. The reading bus bill, the cork bill, and the balloon bill. You know, I really, really want to support your bill. And accordingly, I think there's a way I can support it. I would suggest that we amend this to no more than 49 balloons.
Which is
All
what
right.
the current law states.
50.
Oh, 50. I'm not a hater of balloons. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay,
So
all right.
I
Not
said
gonna be
one because I want.
warmly received. I'll withdraw
All right.
any proposed amendment.
All right, where's Dick Van Dyke when we need him? Okay. All right, any questions for Senator Kiggins? All right, who's here in support of this bill? Anyone here in opposition to this bill? There's got to be some clown alliance or something, no? No? Speaking literally, not metaphorically. Okay. I guess I'll entertain, any comments or questions from the panel? Senator Morrissey.
I generally like the bill too, Senator, but have you considered in those situations that, particularly memorial celebrations where somebody has passed and they release balloons for that person who has passed, did you consider that?
I did consider that, which is why some of the Lynn Haven River Now Chesapeake Bay Foundation, I think we're more fans of having no intentional balloon releases, but that's why I left the number at 1, because I think 1 is a symbolic number, that if there was something for celebrations, funerals, weddings even, that 1 would be sufficient.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Senator Favola.
I move that we pass the bill.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded the bill be reported. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 7, nays 5, abstentions 2.
All right.
Thank
You're
you
released
very
to the
much.
floor. Okay, all righty. All right, Senator Locke. Well, I see her in the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 882.
Senate Bill 882.
And this is the Fish and Wildlife Law Enforcement Improvement Act. And this bill will allow both internal and external candidates to be considered for hiring by the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries Law Division for positions above entry level. And this proposal will give the department flexibility to consider outside candidates for law enforcement positions. There's nothing in this proposal that will prevent an internal candidate from being promoted. It simply would allow outside candidates to likewise be considered for positions. Current law, Section 29.1-200 of the Code of Virginia, requires that all promotions within the department's sworn ranks be made from existing conservation police officers, except for certain at-will positions. The current law limits the department's options in recruiting top candidates for the highest leadership position, which deprives the department of the opportunity to seek candidates of diverse backgrounds and experience that may benefit the law division. The requirement that promotions be made from among existing sworn staff dates to 1994. Since then, the department has abided by the requirement, and promotions have been made from among current staff. This has stymied efforts at diversity in recruitment and new ideas being brought into the division at the leadership level from candidates whose experience emanates from other law enforcement agencies. So that's what the bill would do.
Great. All right, any questions? Okay, anyone here to speak in support? Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senator Locke, thank you. This is an administration bill. The governor supports this bill. We think it's important to try to diversify the DGIF law enforcement workforce. This is a recommendation from a JLARC report that was issued in December, and it's one that we think is appropriate.
Okay. All right. Senator Marson.
I think it's a great bill. I have experience with this in corrections, juvenile corrections environments where people from one state would come over in a supervisory role. It just brings additional knowledge, ways of doing things. You usually bring that person on for a reason, and it's generally a good thing not to get so intramural, if you will, with your own staff that you can't infuse new blood, and it's a great idea. I'd move to report.
Okay. Before we get there, is anyone opposed to this bill? Okay, we have a motion to report in a second. Open the roll. Close the roll.
Yeas 13, nays 0.
Okay. Bill reports 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You got it. Okay. Do we have any other yeah, I think we got that. All right. That was Senate Bill 184. All right, just without objection, Senate Bill 184 will go by for a week. Okay, do we have any committee members that have a bill they're ready to present? Okay, if you have one you want to pass by, go ahead and sing out.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd ask that Senate Bill 335 go by for the day.
Okay, without objection, Senate Bill 335 will go by for the day.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I ask Senate Bill 673 by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 673.
67, yes, sir.
673 will go by for the day.
And one more, Senate Bill 674 by for the day, please.
And Senate Bill 674 will go by for the day.
And I have 849, if you're ready to roll.
Yes, go ahead. Let's go ahead and present that. This is Senate Bill 849. Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a bill that applies to anyone applying nutrients in a non-agricultural land. So your local lawn fertilizers, your local landscape folks. They are required to adhere to conditions and how to do it. Currently, what we do for the watershed implementation plan is we get reports from any that work over 100 acres of land and then turn that into the EPA under the Chesapeake Bay to say, hey, we're doing it right and we're managing this much land. We're trying to get more credits to the watershed implementation plan, so we'd like to reduce that number from 100 down to 50 under management, as well as there's a fine of $250. The staff can remember one time that the fine was even used, but they would like to make that fine $1,000 just to get people's attention saying, hey, you need to adhere to the requirements and the standards. And there's one line in B that allows a locality, if they're out in the field and doing this type of work, they could help these groups, monitor these groups, but they could not penalize these groups. Any regulatory action would have to still be taken at the state level.
Okay. Yes, Senator Stewart.
Monty, I just want to make sure I understand one part of it. One bill that I worked really hard on was getting labeling done so that you didn't use phosphorus when you didn't need it, and we got a lot of credit under the TDML for that, and it didn't cost us any money.
Yes, sir.
And I see in the description, but not in the bill, there's a reference to regulation of packaging, labeling, et cetera, et cetera. Does this bill anyway implicate that section of the law?
I don't believe so. I don't believe it changes the standards in any way. Doesn't change the standards that you worked on anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions from the panel? All right, Senator Mason, do you have any witnesses?
I mean, the gang could tell you, hi.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, Brad Copenhaver, Deputy Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry. This is an administration bill, and Senator Mason did a great job explaining it. Thank you.
Well, thanks for telling us. Okay. Kyle?
Mr. Chairman, Kyle Shreve, Virginia Agribusiness Council. We worked with the patron as well as the administration during the WIP process, and we support the legislation as it is. Thank you.
Okay. Peggy?
Mr. Chairman, Peggy Stanner, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. This bill is part of the Governor's Watershed Implementation Plan, Phase 3. It's consistent with the prior efforts to control and manage nutrients. This time, it's with respect to nutrients on the state's largest crop, I understand, which is lawn. And so it's an important bill to further our efforts under the plan. We support the bill. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Anna Killies with the James River Association. Just want to associate myself with CBF's comments and say that we also support the bill.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Favola.
I move that we report Senate Bill 849.
Second.
And we're going to make that a motion to refer to finance. Okay, we have a motion and a second to report and refer the bill to finance. Open the roll. Clerk will close the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Yeas
committee.
14, nays 0.
Okay, the bill is reported 14-0. Yes. Yes, please, Senator Ruff. 258.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would change the Virginia statute dealing with those that work around in mining sites and allow those under the age of 18 to work, not in dangerous jobs, but in office jobs, labs, scales, just so they get a little experience, maybe as an intern or maybe as a paid employee in the summer. Currently, they are barred from that under state law. This would conform this with the federal standard.
Okay. All right, anyone have any questions for Senator Ruff? Okay, anyone here to speak on the bill, pro or con? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Rob Bohannon with representing the Virginia Transportation Construction Alliance. We represent about 300 companies that build and maintain Virginia's roads, which includes aggregate producers. This is a bill to be good for those members who are facing a workforce shortage. getting folks involved and interested in the industry and showing them that there are job opportunities that abound, like Senator Ruff said. I mean, you've got scale houses, labs, other parts of the business operations of mine. It lets them expose them to that. The federal regulations on this are pretty clear and pretty directive. Only certain of those jobs can minors between 16 and 18 do, so it's very specific. Thank you.
I guess the only question I would have, Rob, is if we're going to just conform to the FLSA, why do we even have the statute?
This is the way it came back from Legislative Services. But because I mean, the statute is very, specific. You can't go anywhere near a mine. This just says that, that there's a precedent for how to do this. That's pretty clear.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
I think this is a very good bill because it's actually in our Virginia code now that we must conform to the federal statutes. And as I understand it, the Fair Labor Standards Act probably sets a more rigorous or more protective standard for the young people than perhaps what our current practice might be. And so this is beneficial to our teenagers.
Mr. Chairman, I think Senator Favola is right. Looking at the federal reg on this, there's about 6 specific tasks they list out that minors between 16 and 18 can do. That's it. It doesn't, leave it open-ended.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to report the bill. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, like sign. Clerk, close the roll.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
The bill is reported 14-0. Okay. Any other members of the committee have a bill they want to bring forward? Okay, we got the SUR bill on its way. All right, why don't I go ahead with mine? Yeah. Yeah, we got sort of this overlap is not good. All right, Richard, you want to take over? Sure.
All right, Senator Peterson.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 24.
Senate Bill 24, which deals with agritourism, which I know is a statute that we're very familiar with. And I put in the words adding horseback riding or stabling to agritourism activity. And what I'd like to do at the outset, and I'll explain this in a second, is strike the word or stabling. So if I could move that myself, I can get a second.
Okay, all in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
All right. Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, this bill, first of all, by striking the word stabling, we've now come into conformance with laws that we already have on the equine industry that said horseback riding is already a protected activity in that regard in terms of the immunity situation. What we really have is a situation that I had in Fairfax County where I had a client that had a special use permit to open up a horse riding facility for disabled children and things of that like. Special use permit granted by the County Board of Supervisors, public hearing, the whole 9 yards. And when we actually tried to build it out, suddenly we were hit with a whole bunch of code requirements such as a paved parking lot, traffic islands, a water fountain, and all sorts of things that you would not typically find on a farm. And I tried to explain to them the whole purpose of the agritourism bill to not put unreasonable regulations on these types of activities where we're trying to preserve open spaces and not just have everything be a townhouse community. And they did not believe that somehow it fit into the ranching, farming, and other descriptions. So I said, well, that's fine. We're going to change that. So anyways, that issue has been solved, so this is not a pending issue in any stretch of the imagination. And this would not take effect till July 1st anyway. But the bottom line is I do want to make sure that horseback riding is agritourism. I believe it is, and this would just simply clarify that. And that's the sum and substance.
Any questions of the patron? You have anyone that would like to speak to it, Senator Peterson?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kyle Shreve, Virginia Agribusiness Council, we support the bill.
Anyone else like to speak for or against it? Senator Peterson, you think it's broad enough? I love your bill.
Okay.
I just wonder if it's broad enough. I mean, should it be all equestrian activities?
I'd just like to keep it horseback riding, as I said. And I think horseback riding is important, without speaking autobiographically, there are some children that it's nice having this as a facility for certain classes of children. And again, there's already a special use permit in counties like Fairfax, and I think once you get through that, you shouldn't have to jump through 30 different hoops to open up.
The therapeutic riding programs, and I have some experience with this, are incredibly beneficial to special needs children. It gives them confidence like you've never seen, provides them a wonderful outlet, and they're just great programs, and we ought to encourage them every way we can.
Great.
Is there a motion on the bill?
Second.
Motion properly seconded to report the bill. Please call the roll.
Richard, you vote?
Yes, sir.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Okay, do we have any other committee member? Oh, Scott, Senator Surville.
Great. I have one pretty simple bill, Senate Bill 435. And just to give the committee a little bit of context, in Fairfax County, I represent about 60 miles of Potomac River, and in Fairfax County, hunting by firearms is effectively prohibited. And about 14 years ago, the DJF was letting people put up duck blinds on a creek called Little Hunting Creek, which is right by the Mount Vernon Estate, right next to several thousand houses. And they worked out, even though hunting wasn't allowed, DJF was still letting people put up blinds. And they worked out an agreement where DJF put a document next to the sign up at their office in Fredericksburg, I think where it is, saying you can't hunt here. And that got people to stop applying for blinds there. And when DJF switched to an electronic duck blind system, they couldn't put that information in front of people. And so now people started mistakenly applying for duck blinds in the creek again. And now the neighborhood's all freaking out that there's gonna be people out there shooting next to their houses. And so DJF said they need a bill to, otherwise they can't pay attention to the local ordinance. They have to still allow people to lease a duck blind, even though they're not allowed to hunt with a gun there. Although they are allowed to hunt with a bow and arrow. I don't know how many people hunt ducks with bows and arrows, but the county's in the process of making that illegal also. So I would just like to get a bill passed saying that we can't have duck blinds either in, I think Fairfax County is probably the best way to do it. I mean, technically it's only Little Hunting Creek, but there's several other creeks where you can still actually lease duck blinds, like Doe Creek where hunting's not allowed and right offshore. And so if you want to, DJF suggests we make this a Section 1 bill instead of putting it in the code and just say we can't do duck blinds in Fairfax County, and I'm fine with that if the committee wants to do that instead.
Okay, let's do this. Senator Barnson, you had a question.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator Surville, you seem to be the only member of the Senate that has a problem with inappropriate things ending up in your creeks. It started out with shopping carts. Now it's duck blinds. When is this going to end?
I'm going to treat it as a rhetorical question. Go ahead, Senator Stewart.
Snakeheads.
Senator Serval. So I just want to make sure I understand this, because I may be the only person up here that is a bona fide duck hunter, at least.
He is.
Ooh, you hurt me with that one, huh?
I didn't know about that.
Hurt me.
And so what this does is it allows the county to adopt an ordinance to prohibit. I don't read that the right way?
So the county already has an ordinance prohibiting hunting.
If they own it, if they control it. But can they do that on state-owned water? Can they adopt an ordinance saying you can't hunt on state-owned water?
Well,
if it's
that's an excellent question, actually.
If it's navigable water, I didn't think the localities could adopt an ordinance.
Well, they're putting them in.
I actually support what you're trying to do. I'm not trying to frustrate you.
Mr. Chairman?
But I don't think you can. I don't think
let me just
do that.
Hold on that. Senator Marsden, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that any watershed of 5 square miles or more makes it navigable, if that's what it's determined by the Marine Resources folks. And so if this creek is below 5 square miles, then it's not navigable and it's not state waters. But if the headwaters are more than 5 square miles, I don't believe, I think Senator Stewart has points.
Okay, why don't we, go ahead, Scott.
I don't know how big it is, but all the bill says the department shall not license a blind in any area where local government body prohibits ordinance the hunting of birds with a firearm. And Fairfax County does do that.
I think the question's going to become, does the county have the ability to do that? Is there any reason why we can't just do a Section 1 bill prohibiting the licensing of a stationary waterfowl blind on Little Hunting Creek?
No, although, again, there's also Great Hunting Creek and there's Doe Creek where this could potentially be an issue. And I'd prefer to just say not in Fairfax County instead of, those are the only other creeks where you could really duck hunt, where the Potomac is tidal and broad, but.
Senator
But
Stewart.
if you want to say Little Hunting Creek, that's fine. I just don't want to be back here again and.
It's becoming an issue in other parts of the state. It's not just Fairfax. It's because you've got subdivisions that have creeks that are a tributary of the Potomac River. And I don't think the county can control that creek, but you've got homes all around the creek and people are trying to put up blinds and duck hunt, and it's really causing a commotion. So this, I mean, what he's got is a good idea and a good bill, but we really ought to get it right and make sure it accomplishes the intended purpose.
Let me get a question from Senator Favola, and then I got to go for it. Go ahead, Senator Favola.
I guess my question is to you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Is there a commission or committee that already is available to study this issue? I mean, we can identify it, and because if it's statewide, we probably do have to get it right.
Well, I don't have a huge problem with this text. And, I don't know if DGIF or somebody wants to have an opinion on this. I understand the jurisdictional issue that if we're going to say, navigable waters are state property, not county property. We all understand that, but we're the state body. If we say, look, if you pass an ordinance prohibiting duck hunting, then we're going to respect that. Go ahead. I'll get you a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Ryan Brown again from the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. And I think to the direct intent of the bill, we're talking about hunting, but this is actually about stationary blinds in a water body. It does seem a clean way to fix this would be a Section 1 bill that simply says the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries shall not license any stationary waterfowl blind in Little Hunting Creek in Fairfax County or whatever water bodies that the senator prefers, which wouldn't negate hunting in those areas, so to speak. It just is directive to us on where we would allow stationary blinds to be put in place. And for background for the committee, we actually do that by regulation in some other areas of the state due to special concerns, not a bar of hunting, so to speak, but a bar of stationary waterfowl blinds. People can still float blind hunt in those particular areas.
Senator Mason, you had a question? Okay, so I guess the question, if we do this as a Section 1 bill, or we say the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries shall not license any stationary waterfowl blind on Little Hunting Creek in Fairfax County. Excuse me?
Doe Creek and Great Hunting Creek are the other two.
Doe Creek,
D-O-G-U-E, and Great Hunting, which is on the Alexandria Fairfax line.
And Great Hunting Creek. All right. I'll entertain a motion to, okay, I second that amendment. All right, so we have basically an amendment to make this a Section 1 bill limiting to Senator Servell's backyard in Fairfax County. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right, so that amendment passes. So that bill is now in front of us in the substituted form. Did the clerk get all that language? I'm going to assume yes. Okay. Any witnesses? Anybody here?
I could make a bunch come if I made a phone call.
All right, move to report. Do we have a second? Okay. All right. All in favor, vote aye or vote nay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Okay. Anybody else got a bill they want to bring forward while we got the committee here? Oh, yeah, hold on a second. What was the number on that? Okay, if I could have a motion to strike Senate Bill 459 from Senator Reeves. All right, and that has to be a recorded vote, so all in favor of striking the bill, vote aye.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Okay, and that bill is stricken on a vote of 14-0. And then I've got Senator Deeds, who's over chairing P&E, where I've got to go up here. So, Madam Clerk, any other work besides that? Okay, all right, the committee will rise. Thank you, bud.